All right, we're back, and this is hypothesis test for the population mean z-test, part 2. And as I just watched the previous video, I noticed a little typo here. So first thing I want to do is just correct that and get my pen going. My pen is now live. Let's flip it over, and I'm going to erase this because it's not actually, come on, it's not actually p of z equal to 1.96. It's p of z less than that, right? So put a less than, less than. Okay, and what that means over here, we haven't done z-scores in maybe a little bit, so keep in mind that here's 0, here's 1.96 standard deviations, and we're saying that 47.5% will be over here. And likewise, because of symmetry, 47.5% would be here, which would leave us with that 2.5% critical um, tail value over there that we're looking for. We're looking to see now, as a reminder, does 68.43 give a z-score that's over here in this tail? If it doesn't, and it's over here, we cannot reject the null. If, however, the z-score of this figure is over here in the tail, or if it was over there in that tail, we could reject the null. Let's see what happens. Z-score. Z equals x bar, the sample mean minus the population mean over the population standard deviation divided by the square root of the sample size. Okay, so I'm going to put in the values, and let's see, x bar is 68.43 minus 69.21 over, what is that, 372, and square root of 30. And that's going to be negative 78 cents divided by whatever this comes out to. Alright, let me scroll down a little bit. And don't worry about what's underneath that, because we'll talk about that in a second. I prepared that earlier. Alright, where's my pen? So what does this come out to? On my calculator, negative 0.78 divided by parenthesis 3.72. You have to use a parenthesis or else it will divide and then divide again instead of dividing by the quantity 3.72 divided by the square root of 30. So you got to do the numerator, subtract that out, hit enter, and then divide that answer by, in parentheses, 3.72 divided by the square root of 30. Close that parenthesis, and one more, enter. Here we go. The answer is, where's my pen? It's so tiny. Oh, negative 1.148. So that means the z-score for this mean is negative 1.148. And if our critical value over here is negative 1.96, well, that puts it, here's 0. Maybe here is negative 1.148. And way over here is negative 1.96. So it's in the region where we cannot reject the null. It's included in that 95%. In fact, it's not even that far. It's not even close to being conclusive evidence that we can reject the null. It would have to be way out here, okay? Or out here in this tail. So you might ask yourself the question, if I did do a sample of 30, like how, 78 cents of difference isn't enough for me to conclude that their mean is wrong. What value would allow me to conclude that the survey was wrong? Well, if you took a sample of 30 and somehow you ended up with $67.88 rather than 69.21, that's like a buck and a half off, right? Or if you ended up with $70.54, that's about the same amount off. What would that actually be? It's a buck 20, that's a buck, and then another 12. So it's a buck 33. And same thing here, buck 33 off. All right, so if you are off, if the sample you got was $1.33 higher or lower, you can conclude with a sample of 30 that the mean is wrong, and then you could reject the null. Or if it was anything more than that. Let me show you how I got that. Since I was looking, since I knew the critical value was negative 1.96, I plugged it into the formula along with all the values, and I solved for, instead of solving for the z-score, I solved for the sample, the sample mean, x bar. That would do it. That would cause us to reject the null. And you can see I solved it. First I multiplied this off the bottom. I multiplied this side by that value and that side by that value, which you see right here. And that canceled out that. And then I added 69.21 to both sides, which canceled out this guy over here. And then as a result, I got 67.88. So with a sample of 30, if x mean came out less than or equal to 67.88, then I could have rejected the null. Or on the other end of the tail, the other tail rather, the other end of the curve, if I had, where's my pen? There it is. Okay. If x bar was greater than or equal to 70.54, I also could have rejected the null. Okay? Because this is what it basically looks like. Unless this value that we started with, let me get a bigger pen because this is really annoying me. Okay. Unless this value ended up over here, then we can't be 95% sure that this value is wrong. Okay? And we found the borderlines. Sorry, this wasn't, this is that's the borderline there. Okay? Is this value. This borderline is that value. But the one they gave us was like 68 something, right? So that's not going to do it. It's not enough. 78 cents isn't going to be conclusive enough evidence that the survey is wrong. So in the end, we do not reject the null. That's it. We're done. Hope this helps. Bye.